Hi friends, happy Solo Sunday and welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the podcast. For my friends on YouTube, welcome back to my page. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, do not hesitate to give me that 5-star rating. Leave me a review. Let me know the things that you love about the show. That really helps me grow it organically. Let's us get the word out. And for those of you on YouTube, feel free to subscribe to the channel and click on the bell. That way it'll let you know every time a new episode is launched. And these Solo Sundays launch, you guessed it, every Sunday. So those are the ones that I put up on YouTube. In case anyone wants to watch the episode, you're welcome to watch it on there. So today's topic was very fun because I wanted to ask a few people what they wanted to hear about this weekend. So we kind of broke it down and a lot of people put in their comments and what they wanted to hear about, and then it was between hearing about sleep and ways to get better sleep, which we can still do that topic eventually. We've got plenty of time. And also we wanted to talk a little bit more about judgment versus observation, and what kind of pulled in and pulled down from that was the Myers Briggs personality test, which I have taken a bunch throughout my life. I had suggested if you hadn't taken it in the past, you should definitely go ahead and take that. It is such an interesting thing to understand any type of personality type quiz. I'm also very into astrology. I love that stuff. I don't live by it, but that's just very much my MO. I really just enjoy that. I think it's great to break down how you work, how you run. So if you haven't taken that, I did leave a link in the show notes. You can go ahead and take that. It's actually, the link that I gave you is a free way to take the Myers Briggs test. And I had a bunch of friends out there who were either introverts or extroverts and had gone through a similar process. So what I'm going to say, if you've never heard of Myers Briggs, it's okay. I'm going to break it down a bit, but there is a difference between each personality type and you get 4 letters. So a lot of people would be an introvert or an extrovert that I was talking to, but had the following ladder. So what happened afterwards was NFP or NFJ, which would stand for intuitive is the N. It's the N part. I know it's an I, but it's intuitive, feeling, and then it would either be the persevering or judging. Now, the first time I ever took this quiz, I believe I was probably 22 years old, and I did receive the result of an E, extrovert, no surprise there, NFJ. And I saw that it said judging. And in my mind, I thought, oh my gosh, judging, like that's not good. Like, don't judge me, or I'm a judgmental person. But as I read about the judgment, I understood there was so much more behind that. Judgment comes from so many different things. Judgment means judging a bad situation. Judgment means being really observational. Judgment means knowing when you're in a sticky situation. I'm kind of repeating myself, but you have to understand that judgment doesn't just mean like you look at someone and you're like, ugh, I don't like her outfit. So don't always feel negative when you hear the word judgment, because that's just what us millennials have kind of changed that word into, is the whole phrase, don't judge me. So being judgmental is not necessarily a bad thing. It can be a positive thing, especially when it comes to a personality test. I have a ton of notes today. I've been researching this for the past 24 hours. I've been researching it in the past, so I'm kind of pulling together a bunch of different notes here. You'll hear a few page flips, and for those of you on YouTube, I will be referring to my notes, but I really want to make sure that we can kind of understand this. And what happened to me was, the first time I took it, I was an ENFJ, and then as time progressed, I turned into an ENFP. So I turned from judging to perceiving. And I wondered what that flip was. And there's so many articles on the internet. So I took a bunch of information from the internet. I did get it from there. I did ask some questions, but I have a bunch of different resources I was grabbing the information from. So that's what I'm going to relay to you and kind of break it down a bit today. So if you are neither an NFP or an NFJ, this may not be your favorite episode, but I do think it's really interesting nonetheless. And one of the biggest things is perceiving prefers to be spontaneous and flexible, a very free-spirited type of person. And a judging prefers to be planned and organized. So I'm gonna kind of break down what the two are and go from there. So to break down the Myers Briggs for us, basically an ENFJ is gonna be more in tune with their emotions and having their group's emotions intact at all times. Like they're constantly thinking about that. And an ENFP is going to be more inspired by their group and all of their thoughts to complete their goals together. So also in looking that up, ENFJs are just natural born leaders. Like ENFJs just love to lead. It just comes super naturally. So if you flip-flop between ENFJ and ENFP often, that is why, and you may be a leader in a lot of positions. There are times where I tend to hold back and maybe I don't jump into the leadership position right away just to like feel out the space and see where everyone else is coming from, because sometimes I feel it becomes a little aggressive and a little invasive, and sometimes I don't always have to be the leader. So that's kind of an ENFP trait. We can be the leader, we don't mind being the leader, we don't have to be the leader. Whereas an ENFJ really feels like they must be in the leadership position, if that makes sense. So an ENFP, they wear their heart on their sleeve. I wore long sleeves for you today. They're easily open about their emotions. We all know I'm a sense of waterworks. We talk about that all the time. They're inspired by a group to get their overall goals completed, and they genuinely care about those around them. And we always like to interact with other people around us and interact with our group. And we just enjoy that because we think it spreads really good feeling and good positivity, and that results in success within our group. And now an ENFJ is a little bit more focused on the feelings of others, but they're not open about their own feelings. So they kind of fixate on each person. And I remember being younger and I would always be like, there for everybody. Tell me everything, what's going on. I feel for you, I feel for you, I feel for you. But it was a lot for me to tell you what was going on deep, deep, deep in myself. So not a bad thing. Again, just an observation. And then they're inspired by groups by paying personal attention to each person as opposed to the overall group discussion. And they're super emotion and laser focused on the feelings of others. So we really get in and we're like laser focused on like, well, how are you feeling? That would be an ENFJ. So within planning versus possibility, here's a good one. So ENFPs are more like risk takers. Like they're going to just jump off the cliff. They are your free spirit, your loose, I wouldn't say loosey goose, but like they're more of a free spirit. They're just gonna jump off the cliff, take the risk and dive and go for it. Whereas, and they like new ideas and they're obviously outgoing and super extroverted. And an ENFJ is going to be more planning, and they're going to enjoy the schedule and putting people together and making sure every puzzle piece fits. Like this person's going to get along with this person at this party, and that like when we invite the guest list, it's very planned. It's very, whereas an ENFJ would just say, or an ENFP would say, let's just have a party and like these are all the people that can make it and they'll figure it out. And an ENFP will naturally make sure that everyone figures it out while it's going on, whereas an ENFJ strategically made a plan and invited specific people so it works. I'm not sure if anyone saw that new show that's on Netflix, and it's like a huge like LGBTQ show that they have out right now. It is so good, and it's a random party that they're having. It's just like an ongoing track, an ongoing film. They have some amazing stars in the show, and you should really look it up. I need to remember what it is. I'm gonna look it up right now. But they are basically on this evening event and someone comes over that's not homosexual, and it's a very interesting process, and it's set back in like the 1950s, 1960s. So the show, I had to look it up. The show is called The Boys in the Band, and it stars Zachary Quinto and Jim Parson, Matt Bomer, Charlie Caver, Carver, Robin DeJesus, Brian Hutchinson. I mean, I don't know, but who else is in it? Michael Benjamin Washington. There's so many good people in it, and it's just a really cool film that's on Netflix right now. You should watch it, but it's just interesting how they have this whole planned event for a friend's birthday, and then someone comes over into the party that definitely wouldn't fit within the realm. Now, as an ENFP, for me, I would be like, this is fine. It's going to be fine. Now, the host of it is the host of the party. I'm not going to give too much away, but I promise, in case you haven't seen it. But the host of it is Jim Parsons, and Jim Parsons' character is definitely an ENFJ. And he's like very thrown off by what the balance is going to be, bringing this heterosexual male into this homosexual environment, especially during that time. So it's very interesting. You should definitely watch it. So that is kind of a planning versus possibilities. So just like throwing that party together last minute would be an ENFP. ENFJ would be must plan, party, everything from like start to end. So as far as when conflict comes up, because this comes up a lot in life, right? Conflict is not a fun thing. A lot of us like to avoid conflict. Some go head on with it. So an ENFP tends to keep the peace. They tend to really use the feeling of others to resolve the issues. Like they're with them, they kind of get involved in the whole thing and then try to make it resolved through feelings as opposed to through force. And then an ENFJ is just more persuasive and confident. So they're going to be hands-on with conflict resolutions, and they're going to get the members to resolve their issues through force and then afterwards, if someone's wounded, they are a little bit more empathetic to them. So a given situation, let's say we're just in a group and two of my employees aren't getting along. Well, I would just say, like, if I was an ENFJ, I would head on go into that and say, like, why aren't we getting along? We need to move forward. What's the difference? You want to do this, you want to do that. Well, this is what we're going to do. And then for the person that's a little bit upset, they would kind of go and coddle them and make sure that they were okay. Whereas an ENFP would approach that situation and say, well, what are you doing and what are you doing and why do you feel that this would be a little bit more of a conversation and kind of inclusive, in the sense to make sure that as a group we decide and move forward utilizing the feeling. And if they have conflict with someone one-on-one, if it's head-on, they're probably more likely to just kind of ease out of it in a fun, authentic way, whereas an ENFJ would be like, no, I'm right and this is why. So it's just a difference. Nothing's better or worse than another, but that's just something to look for if you're finding any similarities in your own personality with any of the things that I'm saying. An ENFP is a bit more impulsive. So we have so many fun artistic projects. Let's talk about all my artistic projects. Did I know how to start a podcast? Absolutely not. Did I know how to use a microphone? Absolutely not. Did I know about a mixer? Didn't. Am I good with YouTube? Kind of, because I was an actor, so I would throw out my videos often. Am I a technological person? Hell no. So all these things happened, but I wanted to start a podcast. I was like, this is the perfect time. I'm going to start a podcast. Done. I loved these hair care products that I'm working with. I joined the team. I'm selling the hair care products, loving them, by the way. If you ever want to know about them, don't hesitate to DM me. I loved the beauty counter products. Yeah, my friend said you should sell them. Okay, great. So now I sell those too. I'm always doing fun artistic projects, but I'm bringing I'm speaking from I, because that's where I can speak from. But speaking from I just noticed that in this time, I definitely am always looking around at all these different projects I have going on. And an ENFP is more likely to give a fresh perspective to people or objects, saying like, oh, like this is a ladder. Like this is a great example. This is a ladder. Now, one person would think, oh, okay, well, a ladder is only like to climb up on. Now, some people see it as an art piece, or some people use it to like sit all their plants on, or some people twist it to the side and put it on the wall and put little pictures in between it. That object doesn't necessarily have the same function as it's intended and was designed for. Whereas an ENFJ is definitely still intuitive, but they're a bit more focused on symbols and concepts. So they're involved in projects that like follow rules. So if they're putting something together that's like a project they get, they love the directions and they'll read the directions and they'll put everything together. Very influenced by their thought and like using their brain to do something as opposed to impulse. When it comes to details, to move on to that, ENFPs are free and easygoing. This is again a great example of what I've slowly progressed into as an adult. Free and easygoing. Everyone and anyone who reads my texts literally has streams of texts, group texts that they go to other people and say, look what Stasi wrote this time. And it's always because I'm doing a million different things at once. So that is also a really cool thing that I can be a multitasker. It also tends to make sure that sometimes I don't always have everything exactly how I plan it. I don't know if any of you, so when it comes to texting, I'll shoot a text or a voice memo through Siri, voice command through Siri, and then I'll send it without even reading it or anything. So then it ends up saying really funny stuff like when I sent a message to my boyfriend from my mom's phone, she said, does Doug like salmon? That's what she wanted me to ask. And she was saying like, does Doug like sockeye salmon? And I had voice commanded it to Doug, and he got the message back and he was like, I'm sorry, what did you say? Because it was coming from my mom's phone and it said, do you want to suck my salmon? So clearly this is something that I do all the time. I very much need to start screenshotting some of them and just sharing them on my story because they're a treat, I gotta tell ya. But that would never happen with an ENFJ. They are always looking for errors. They're triple checkers to the max. They're perfectionists, super detail oriented, always paying close attention. So there's a huge difference, I think. There's a lot of similarities we're hearing, but like there's also a lot of differences. And then when it comes to management, an ENFP really thrives with someone that gives them a long leash to figure out a task or to finish a project or to work with people. They allow them to use their unique skills in order to complete set tasks or daily tasks. So that is one thing that an ENFP really, really likes from a manager's perspective. If they can tell that they have unique attributes, they allow them to just flourish by using their uniqueness. Whereas an ENFJ really, really, really appreciates a manager that says like, here's your tasks, here's your checklist, boom, 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 this is what you need to do today. Neither of them wrong, neither of them right? So you're constantly learning this as you're reading it through. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'd rather be that, but I'm this. But other times I'm like, that's just who I am. To a T, it really truly explains why I have converted from an ENFJ to an ENFP. And I was such a perfectionist before. And then after I went to college, or not college, but after I went back to my conservatory from 22 to 24, I learned to break down. I learned that I didn't need to be perfect. I learned the beauty of my imperfectness. And I didn't care if other people saw that as much. Even on Instagram, sometimes I throw up videos where I know I have some of my friends are like, I can't believe you wouldn't put that up, or why would you put that up? And in my mind, I'm like, because I'm not Martha Stewart. I'm not Barefoot Contessa when I'm putting together a video about food. I'm Stasi, and like, this is my life and this is how I am. And I just want you to see how I prepared my breakfast today or what I did. And it can be a bit sloppy, but I think there's beauty in the sloppiness. Again, like the episode a few weeks ago, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, it really is. So it just depends on what you like. Some people really like a full perfection, and there are things that I'm like that on. I still am a stickler, especially when it comes to very important documents. I'll check them quite a bit, but there are some times when I'm doing so many things and people are sending me stuff and I'm writing stuff in and I'm not triple checking, and that is why things happen in that regard for me. So an ENFP is I actually looked this up on the Myers Briggs page then because I wanted to hear a couple quotes, and Isabel Briggs Myers said that an ENFP They may be inspiring teachers, scientists, artists, advertising, or salespeople, or almost anything they do. So an ENFP is a chameleon. They're going to be really great at a lot of these jobs, but they also are going to be good at whatever they put their mind to, because that's just how they're programmed. This didn't work, well, I'll do this. This doesn't work, I'll do this. They're very much like that. Or this project didn't work out for me, that's fine. So anything they put their mind to, they're really just gonna flourish in. And then an ENFJ is likely, I'm gonna read it because it's a quote again, sorry, are likely to have the gift of expression, but they may use it in speaking to an audience rather than in writing. So if you're an ENFJ, you are going to have amazing expression. You're going to be a great public speaker. You're going to be a great podcaster. There's a lot of things you're going to be doing, and you're going to relate information to others and connect to others through your words more or less than through writing. So those are big, big, big differences, and I just wanted to go over a few of those. So if anyone has any questions about any of those, don't hesitate to reach out, and don't hesitate not to look them up yourselves, because I think we constantly hear all these things, and I was saying even the other day, it's like judgment versus observation, and I think judgment is not something that we should frown upon, and judgment is something that we're constantly doing the minute that we're getting on our phones in the morning. I was just saying this again, in the lines of comparison is the thief of joy. We're getting on the phones in the morning and we're scrolling through the feed and we're already judging ourselves and what we want to post, and we're judging other people. This is the negative. We're judging other people, and we're getting down on ourselves before we've even posted ourselves, before our feet have even hit the floor, because we're already in this judgmental mindset. Whereas you can observe instead. You can observe your surroundings, you can take in your morning, you can take in, if you have an animal, you can observe what's going on in the situation. You can choose not to get into this judgmental state, or you can notice that you're starting to judge yourself, observe that, put the phone down. Yes? So like a great thing to do that I've actually been doing lately is I turned off all my notifications, which is scary because I'm trying to sell stuff online and I'm actually trying to build my presence within my Instagram. And in learning that, I was just observing that it was sucking me away from all the things I was supposed to do. As an ENFP, I'm doing a million different projects at once. I could be texting someone, I'm answering an email, I'm writing down a note. My head's all over the place, and anytime I was getting a notification, I was clicking on it and then getting sucked back into Instagram and scrolling through. I got rid of the notifications. I know it's crazy, but you'll check your phone more often for sure, but you won't get distracted when you're getting on your phone to do something specific, to send out an email, to check a reservation, to set up a reservation, whatever it is, you're gonna stay a little bit more focused on the timeline. Now, if you are an ENFP, like myself, some things that I've been starting to do to be a little bit more like an ENFJ in order to get things done during my day is I actually do start to write down and plan out my day. So I have allotted an hour for me to work on my hair care line and my products and send out emails and this, that, and the other thing. Now, if something comes in, I will check it because I don't have the notifications, but I'll check it and then move on. I will do an hour where I set aside a phone call. I'll do, so then I have this strategic plan, and the day doesn't just escape me because I'm doing so many different things, and the sun rises, I'm up at 7, you've got the dog walks to break up things, maybe you have the workout to break up things, but like the end of the day rolls around and I'm like, oh my gosh, the sunset, I want to pour myself a glass of wine. I didn't complete 100% of my task, I only completed 75. So this will just help with those distractions if you are someone that is getting distracted a little bit easier. But either way, I mean, the ENFP or the ENFJ is not a bad thing. I think just having that open mind and just taking the test is such an interesting thing. So check it out, see what you are, reach out to me. That's what I want to know this week. I'd love for you to say if you took the test or you gained any perspective from this episode. Feel free to screenshot when you're listening to the episode. Feel free to screenshot me, even if I have a weird face, I don't care. And just say that you're listening to it on your story. Hashtag the luxury of self-care. Tag me on Instagram. I'm at Rumor in St. Petersburg. You'll hear all that at the end of the show, and it's always in the show notes for you as well. But I hope you enjoyed this. There was a lot of information that I learned, and I was like, oh, I really, really loved that. So it was exciting for me to look up some of this information, and I hope it helped clear some things for you as well. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. It's so sunny here today. We're going to go out to dinner tonight, so I'm looking forward to that. That was a plan. That was in the plan. My father is very much a planner. And I laugh. I'll give you one last little thing. I used to say that we needed a vacation from the vacation because it was almost as if my dad would have a binder, and sometimes there was a literal binder, and you would open it up, and then does anyone ever remember not Google Maps, but MapQuest? So it would map out your location. You'd plug in where you were starting and your end. So just like you have on your phone, but you would do MapQuest, and then you would print it out. So you would have the directions to get to your location, and you can't ask Siri when you're going the wrong way, and they reroute for you. You don't have a GPS. So he would have from like the MapQuest to like getting on the plane to like which hotel we were staying at before our flight to where we were gonna eat dinner. Like everything was always mapped out. And that was one reason why we always really enjoyed cruise ships, because for him, he knew that we were on the ship, no matter what, we would eventually find each other, and he could do whatever he wanted and didn't have to rely on me and my brother. So that's just a little fun tidbit for you. But just understanding how to like work with different personality types, I think, is the best thing. Like, know that not everyone is exactly the same as you. And if you're having a moment where you're super frustrated, go ahead and close your eyes and say, I know this is awful. It's just gonna get you through the moment. Give yourself a closed eyes and just be like, not everyone is as perfect as me. Not everyone is as good as me. Not everyone thinks the same way I do. Not everyone is me. And just kind of like repeat that mantra, because it's just going to help you realize that like not everyone understands or is coming from the same place that you're coming from, or was brought up in the same way, or has had the same experiences, and just grant them a little grace when you're trying to deal with them. I think that's going to help your patience. But that is my little tips to add on to everything, along with all the facts between the perceiving versus the judging. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I can't wait to see you all next week. Before I leave, I just wanted to say I'm having a La Croix. I keep having it here on the side, and I'm never putting it in, but I'm doing apricot this week, which I usually only like the citrus, but the apricot's really good. So La Croix, if you ever sponsor my show, I always sip you on the side. So, all right, everyone, enjoy your Sunday, and I'll see you on Thursday. I can't wait. This candle behind me is by Bryce Wagner, and he has a candle company called Prism Candle Company, and that's who we're going to be featuring on Thursday. He's even going to give you a discount code, so be sure to tune in for that. And again, just enjoy your weekend and enjoy these facts. See you later.